Well, enough of the Mopars, enough of the Chevys. We're looking at a Ford finally, so we're trying to keep it even for everybody. Tell us your name, tell us where you're from.
Mark Reinhardt from Middletown, Delaware.
From Middletown, so you're down the road a little ways from Pike Creek.
Yes, I am.
Now, tell us a little bit about the Mustang we're looking at.
66 standard coupe that was originally an A code, they call it 289, standard 4-speed car that my dad bought new, and we've had in the family since then, and I refurbished it over the last 6 or 7 years and finally have it out on the road.
Now, a lot of the muscle magazines are talking about the ones that didn't get away, the ones that they kept in the family all along. We're actually looking at one of those cars.
That is correct.
Now, you drove this back when you were a kid, back in high school, about 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah, 3 or 4 years ago, I wish. Yes, I drove this from when I was 16 through about 23 in college, and then it sat for many years until I decided to restore it in about 2001.
Now, I've actually been aware of this car a little bit, and we've talked about this before. Now, what are the seats out of?
Seats are not out of anything. They're aftermarket completely by a company called Cirillo out in California. I saw an ad for them and I liked them, so I contacted them, and they're extremely comfortable and they fit like a glove.
Now, on this car, the transmission, you row your own gears in this, but while it looks like it's coming in the right place and everything looks like it's original, it's actually not, is it?
That's correct. It's retroed in a TKO 600 made by a company called Chrysler Engineering down in Tennessee, and they modify the transmission so that it's basically a bolt-in into the stock shifter location. You put a shifter on it with the same exact profile and you'd never know the difference.
Now, the floor needed just a little persuading to get it up through.
Just a touch, but not much.
Not much. Now, the paint, if the camera's picking it up, the stripe on these would have been Wimbledon white, and that's kind of actually a creamier white than this. This is closer to a fleet white, a bright white.
It's a bright white. It's more of the white like the newer Shelby Mustangs have on it. If you look at the 2005 through 2008, it's the same white as that.
But the red is the correct red.
That is correct. Yeah, candy apple red, 1966 candy apple red.
Now, we've talked about the transmission, we've talked about the seats. What do we got? Well, we did talk about the motor, I'm sorry. The wheels are what I wanted to mention. Now, those wheels, they got to be hard to come by.
Well, you can buy them aftermarket, and that's what these are. They're just the wheels off of a 1967 GT500.
Yeah, so that was which is a real rare car by itself.
That's right, but these are, mimics of that.
They're a great looking wheel. Thank you very much for showing us the car.
Anytime.
Thanks for bringing it out. I gotta thank Frank, our cameraman, for this one. He picked up on this. I'm walking around. This is a great car. Tell us your name. Tell us a little bit about the car.
My name is Mark. It's a 57 Chevy, a blown 540.
Now, blown, for the folks at home, that's talking about that big shiny piece right up on top of the motor.
Yep, that's it. That's it. Made 1,001 horsepower on pump gas.
That's fantastic. Now, how many pounds of boost does that make?
About 12.
Now, for the folks at home that are watching, this isn't the kind of blower that you see on the imports, on the tuners, on the little cars. That's a centrifugal. This is a roots type blower. Yep. Tell everybody what that means.
It means there's 3 or 4. I can't think what they're called now, inside the blower that actually rotate and they force induction.
They force the air down in, right.
Yep.
Now, what about the rest of the motor that it's feeding?
I'm sorry?
The rest of the motor? No, that's got to be a pretty low compression to take that kind of boost, right?
7.5 to 1 compression, and they're dish pistons and aluminum heads and all the goodies. Now,
in addition to the motor, the body looks outstanding. Tell us a little bit about the body and the paint.
I found the body and the paint, the body in Reading, Pennsylvania about 2 years ago, and I bought it. It had a big block in it, and it just wasn't enough. So we put this motor in it, and we're having a blast with it.
It's a great looking car. We were talking to the gentleman up here earlier that had the 55, and we talked about the gas gap was hard to find on some of the different cars. This one falls into that category.
Yes, yes. Do you know where it is?
Behind the taillight. Yes. Back in the day, this was a lot of fun to pull up to the pumps and just let the attendant wander around the car aimlessly looking for the door before he asked.
Yeah. We don't have it anymore. It's a self-serve now.
Right. Now, There's also some distinguishing things on this that identified it as a V8 versus the 6-cylinder cars.
That's the gold V, and on the hood and on the trunk.
Right, then that's the V, and that told everybody that this was a V8,
yes.
One of the ones not to be messed with. Now, 57 was the fuel injection year too, right?
Yes, yes, it was.
So this wasn't a fuel car.
No,
okay.
This was a 283 car with a 3-speed back in the day.
Well, it's a great looking car. Thanks for showing it to us today.
Very much.
I found this gentleman earlier in the show, and I said I'd like to come back and talk to you about the car, and we got so tied up I barely made it back in time. Tell us your name, tell us a little bit about what we're looking at.
Well, I'm Lucky Fast Eddie from Dover, Delaware. I'm 72 years old. I've been hot rodding all my life, and I fell in love with rat rods, and I built this thing.
Now, I walked up. The motor on this car, I mean, the front end looks like it would be in the right place, but the motor's in a little unusual place on this car.
That's right. The motor is in the back. I can't take credit for the design because it came out of a Pontiac Fiero, and the Pontiac Fieros used to be in the back.
Correct.
So we took a Pontiac Fiero engine, the lower cradle, and we built the frame and put all the rest of it together.
Now, we were talking earlier about the welding. It was your son that did the welding?
My youngest son, and I also had a professional welder help us too.
There is an incredible amount of welding on this car. We did a little bit with the frame connectors and the roll cage and stuff on ours, but our hot rod's nothing compared to this with the welding that's going on here.
Well, everything's fabricated. We had to build it all from scratch. And I'll tell you how we did it. We built the complete frame out of 2x4 wood. Mocked it all up, sat the body on it, sat the grill on it, sat the wheels on it to make sure it looked right. And when we got it right, then we took and copied the wood into steel.
Into steel, that's a lot of work. Yeah. Now, that hood's been sectioned into what looks like at least 5 pieces.
Yep, well, it's extended out about 14 inches. It's 14 inches longer because we moved the rear wheels up, and that's called bobbing.
Right.
So when we moved the rear wheels up, we didn't want to lose our wheelbase, so we shot the front out.
Okay, now, I mean, that makes a lot of room for the motor up front, but of course it's not there. What do we got under the hood?
What do we got under the hood is 718 pounds of steel weight.
Ballast.
Ballast and a fuel tank.
That's a great place for the tank.
6-gallon fuel tank, and I just came up here from Dover, right around 50 miles, and I filled it up down on the corner. It took 2.1 gallons.
That's fantastic. Now there you go. For everybody that wants to do green, he took some pieces, he made his own car, there was no polluting the environment, he recycled, and it's getting, how many miles a gallon is that?
25 miles to the gallon.
25 miles a gallon. So there you go. There's a fight your hybrids with that.
Yeah, right. It's a totally improvised car. You see the sun visor on the top?
Yes.
That sun visor is the front roof of a 54 Ford hardtop.
Okay.
Man cut the hardtop off and made it a convertible, and I took the front piece and made a sun visor out. That's a factory sun visor right there. And that's the homemade one right there.
And now that's true. This is true high riding. I mean, they're called rat rods, and that's kind of getting a bad name, but this is true high riding. Taking what you've got and making your high ride out of it.
Making it work. Taking what you got and making it work. Exactly right.
Well, this is fantastic. Thank you very much for showing it to us. I know everybody watching is just going to really dig this car a lot.
Okay,
thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.